All right, take three. First rule of this channel: we not talk about the channel. Second rule of this channel: this is not legal advice. So, just got done thinking about the NFL draft, the first round that just got done tonight. I was listening to the bootleg guys and the underdog guys in the background a little bit. So, full disclosure: some of my takes may be bleeding in with them. I didn't agree with some of their stuff. I did agree with their stuff. We'll get into it. Caleb Williams went in one overall to the Bears. I moved him up. I slotted him in right around like quarterback 16. Could move him up as high as 13. The more I think about it with my rankings this year, I'm probably going to be moving CJ Stroud, Brock Purdy, Tua, and Goff down because I just don't know how they're going to win me a league in one quarterback leagues. And the theoretical upside of Caleb Williams and their ninth overall pick, Rome Dunze, is going to make me think that there's a better chance that Caleb Williams can win me a league than Stroud, Purdy, Tua, Goff. It's not saying that you can't win a league playing it safe with those guys. I like to gamble a little bit more with knowing that I'm going to win a league than trying to claw my way into sixth place. So moving on, number 2 overall was Jaden Daniels. The Redskins, okay weapons that he's going to rushing upside. I immediately moved him all the way up to quarterback 12 on my board. And I would probably maybe before the season I put Caleb right underneath him. If you're wondering, a lot of risk in these picks, also a lot of upside going on with them. Drake May goes 3 to the Patriots. Probably has a lot more value in Dynasty. Probably has more value than Caleb Williams because he may end up keeping the rushing upside. Caleb Williams, again, at the end of UFC was just not really a rusher. So maybe if the Patriots can figure out their offensive situation, Drake may end up being a better fantasy guy. Again, I don't care about real football. This is fantasy football. Marvin Harrison Jr. goes 4 to the Cardinals. I think I would end up putting him. I was thinking about it before I went live. He may end up cracking the top 10 before the end of the season because of like Rashee Rice's legal stuff that's going on. And I would definitely move DJ Moore down the board. So that would potentially even move Marvin Harrison right into his spot right now. It just becomes an issue of like how much I trust that Marvin Harrison is going to be able to give me a wide receiver 1 range of outcomes versus betting that he's going to have like an okay pedestrian season and putting with those guys that are going to give me a punt at the wide receiver position right now, like in the same tier as like your Waddles and your Olaves. That's where I would tier him. I think he has more upside to that. It just depends on how much I want to bake that into my ranking versus his ADP. Joe Alt goes to the Chargers at 5. Good news for all your Chargers weapons. That's all offensive line picks early are just like, yay, if I own them in dynasty or sleep or keeper leagues, if I'm going to pick them up, it's a good sign. Bad offensive lines lead to bad offenses. Good offensive lines lead to good offenses. Doesn't mean he's going to be a good player. What it does mean is they're investing in the position. Malik Neighbors goes 6 to the Giants. And this is not particularly good news from a fantasy perspective. Right now, because he has the range of outcomes to be a wide receiver 1, I put him down right around like wide receiver 35. It's going to be very difficult for him to finish with like those league winning upsides, when his quarterback's Daniel Jones and, his best guy to pull coverage away, maybe like Darren Waller, maybe it's Jalen Hyatt. Probably looking at like 1,000 yards receiving, 7 touchdowns over underline this year. That's just not going to move the needle for me. That's why I would end up moving him down. I just don't know a way that he's going to win me a league. And I can pull this up. When we look at like Daniel Jones, like his, if I could get Sleeper to work, his career high with the Giants was in passing yards was 2022 in 16 games with 3,200 yards and 15 touchdowns. As a rookie in 13 games, Daniel Jones had 24 touchdowns. That's why it's going to be a tough road for Malik Neighbors from a dynasty perspective. Trying to parse out like who, it's probably not going to be Daniel Jones, right? Who's going to be the starting quarterback in New York, the Giants down the line? That's going to be his dynasty value. Again, I probably would let him be somebody else's problem at that point. Like, you're betting on the talent better more than the situation. I like betting on the situation more than talent. That's just me. JC Latham goes to Alabama. This just keeps Will Levis, sleeper season online. I want I want Tajay Spears and I want Tony Pollard to see how the backfield shakes out more now. I might end up putting both those guys higher on my board. They're right around running back 28. And again, some of these backfields I tier together, so I will make sure I get both those guys in my drafts. So I don't particularly think let's see. I don't particularly think that either one of these guys are going to be expensive in and of themselves, as opposed to I'm looking at A-Chain and Mostert are going to be a little bit harder to get a hold of. Like I like Spears and Pollard probably better than Ramondre and Gibson. There would be in that tier of guys down the line. Let's see. Moving on. Michael Penix goes to Atlanta. From a dynasty perspective, good luck. You're looking at least 2 years because that's the guaranteed money on Kirk Cousins' contract before he's relevant from a fantasy perspective. Not going to have rushing upside. That maybe better for the toys down the line. Soon as Brett on Bootleg said collusion, I was like, yep, same thing as the other guy was. I was like, yep, that's why they went and pulled the trigger this year. They know they're not going to have a pick next year. That's why they did it. Rome goes 9. Again, I would end up moving DJ Moore down. Probably Keenan Allen's going to stay the same. I have him about wide receiver 27. I would put Rome. I think I talked about him already. Probably right around like wide receiver 36, something along those lines. Maybe there's a little bit more value in him. He may end up being the guy, but I doubt that the number one is probably going to be DJ Moore. Keenan Allen's probably going to be safe, and Rome's going to be a little bit boom bust. From a dynasty perspective, it gets even tougher to kind of rank out where he's going to be. Yeah, he's going to eventually probably be the number 2 in that offense behind DJ Moore. And then long term, he may end up being the number 1 attached to Caleb Williams if you can parse that out far enough in advance. And you're looking at probably 5 years down the line before that occurs, plus or minus. JJ McCarthy goes 10 to the Vikings with a trade up. Is going to keep my idea that Sam Darnold is going to be a sleeper quarterback still in line. Doesn't necessarily mean that JJ McCarthy is going to win the job. If he wins the job, I just probably slot him back into like the Sam Darnold spot at quarterback 20. Going to have a little bit of deceptive athletic ability, high volume passing offense. I like both those things, even as a rookie. From a dynasty perspective, he may be the number 2 guy behind Jaden Daniels because of that rushing upside, because I think Caleb Williams may turn it into more of just a pure passer at that rate. Again, even if JJ McCarthy isn't a rusher like say like a Joe Burrow, higher volume passing offense that is projected behind Drake May, that's how I would see it shaking out between these guys. Let's see, moving on. Fashanu goes to the Jets. Again, that's going to keep Breece Hall and Garrett Wilson where I like them as running back 1 and wide receiver 2 overall. Bo Nix goes to the Broncos. Okay-ish weapons in the Broncos. Could have a little deceptive athletic ability, the nimbly bimbly that we like. Maybe keeps them a little bit more relevant. Probably not going to have the passing volume as a rookie. Expect that he will beat out Jarrett Stidham for the job. So I those are all things to like. But down the line, where I would potentially put him, again, Michael Penix may never have rushing upside. Probably would put him slightly ahead of Drake May from a dynasty perspective. But I would probably still keep JJ McCarthy ahead of Bo Nix, if you're wondering. So that's where I would put him. I think quarterback 4, 6 total quarterbacks went off the board. Brock Bowers at 13. This is really interesting, and I agree with the Bootleg guys. I was listening to them on this one. So Brock Bowers plays more of an H position tight end. Michael Mayer plays more of a Y position tight end. Kind of think what was going on with Dawson Knox and Dalton Kincaid. Brock Bowers is better than Dalton Kincaid, more athletic. So trying to parse this out for the future means possibility that Brock Bowers is the number 2 in that offense this year. That's a good thing. So we can actually maybe think of a Sam Laporta type 900 yards receiving, 7 touchdowns for Brock Bowers this year. That's not. I would not be surprised that would be an over underline. It's probably better to be thinking that like Brock Bowers to get like 650 yards receiving and 4 touchdowns this year. But that would give us the range of outcomes of where you go. I would probably even potentially rank him up. I'm going to rank him probably tight end 13 overall right now behind Noah Fant. Maybe I'll end up moving him up as close to tight end 10. I don't think I would put him above David Njoku and Kittle and Pitts right now. I don't think I would go that high. Maybe Muth, we could start maybe arguing about, or not Muth, Ferguson and Bowers. Maybe we could start talking about that. I don't think he's going to be battling with targets with Michael Mayer. Again, Michael Mayer, more of a traditional inline Y. Brock Bowers could theoretically get moved around the formation. This is going to definitely hurt your Jakobi Meyers shares, potential for a Trey Tucker breakout. Down the line, it still would put Brock Bowers in line to be the number one in the offense. When Devontae Adams, who's over the age apex, when he's gone or his talents diminish. So I mean, I do like the landing spot. There is a lot to speculate on when it comes to redraft and dynasty. Fuaga goes to the Saints. Again, I like that. I like the upgrade, the slight upgrade to all the guys in New Orleans. Let's see. Then we have a whole bunch of our defensive players start going off the board. Mims goes to the Bengals. Gotta love that pick to keep your Bengals toys on track. Do also like that. It would upgrade my Zach Moss and Chase Brown. I would want that backfield a little bit more. Looking at where I had them ranked right around Spears and Pollard. So again, I might move up Moss and Brown ahead of Spears and Pollard because of the fact that this is probably going to be a better offense. So if I start tearing these guys together with better offenses, just the offensive tackle going to the Bengals makes me want the more pieces of the offense. And if I can get Moss and Brown together, and I'm trying to look at like how far up I would end up moving Moss and Brown together because they're going to be relatively cheap to go out and get. Maybe depending on how the rookie running back shakeup, I could even move Moss and Brown into the 20s if some of the other running backs start getting competition in their backfield that are going in that they're bell cows right now, except we're expecting that rookie running backs are going to come in. Fatanu goes to the Steelers at 20 overall. Again, expecting that this is going to be a higher volume rushing offense. No competition right now for George Pickens. So again, he survives round one of the draft. I expect the Steelers will pick that up round two. So again, like Najee and Jalen Warren are going to be guys that, again, this is all the stuff that I like for trying to get backfields together. And normally with these two guys in a backfield, the guys who have the lowest ADP are just going to be the guys that I target. Think around picking up like my running back 4, running back 5, those type of guys, like they're good lottery tickets to have, versus some of the other speculative guys that may end up being driven up too rich for my blood. Maybe even like my running back 3, my running back 2, like those things. It depends on your league overall. So Brian Thomas Jr. goes 23 to the Jaguars. So potential of Gabe Davis being a wide receiver 1 probably out the window. I would imagine that Christian Kirk and Zay Jones may or may not, at least one of them may or may not be on the roster. Brian Thomas Jr. Would have the potential to be a wide receiver 1, a league winner in redraft down the line. He would attach to be the number 1 guy attached to Trevor Lawrence. So I would like that. You're still going to have Evan Ingram there. Tight ends can age a little bit. I imagine Evan Ingram will stay the number 2 down the line, even if Brian Thomas does develop. So there's a possibility he could win a league in redraft this year. I would think that's a little doubtful. Gabe Davis is probably going to play the X. There's a possibility he could play the Z. That would you're looking at waiting to see if Zay Jones gets shipped or cut. I think they can cut Zay Jones. So like Brian Thomas Jr. maybe being the Z in that offense, Christian Kirk being the vertical slot, that would upgrade him. And then right now, where I think I would be putting him in about the same range that I would put Rome, about like in that wide receiver 30 to wide receiver 40 area in redraft. In Dynasty, he's going to be ranked up there a little bit higher. Down the line, being the number 1 attached to Trevor Lawrence is probably not a bad thing. Like some of these guys that we're going to talk about, like Neighbors, like you're worried about them becoming Terry McLaurin. Really good, bad situation, never has that breakout. And I think there's a possibility that will happen with Brian Thomas. He's probably not Terry McLaurin coming out of college. He may not be that developed, but similar athletic abilities. Jordan Morgan goes to the Packers. The biggest news out of all of this is, I still like my Josh Jacobs shares going at running back 7 overall. This just makes me want to draft him more at running back 7. Graham Barton goes to the Buccaneers at 26. So I like my Rachaad White shares at running back 4. Overall, the wide receivers for the Buccaneers probably don't have that much of a change because, again, Mike Evans over the AJ picks. I think Chris Godwin's a little nicked up. They're attached to Baker Mayfield overall. But, I mean, it keeps them on track overall. Xavier Worthy going 28 to the Chiefs. This gets really interesting because with the potential of a suspension for Rashee Rice, I could put a apples to apples comparison to Xavier Worthy and Tyreek Hill. So from a fantasy or from a dynasty perspective, you could think about that. Patrick Mahomes putting the ball down the field. This is going to raise the value of Patrick Mahomes, obviously, in both redraft and dynasty. Possibly he could end up working as the number 3 in the offense. If there's a Rashee Rice suspension, that could occur. I don't know how much he's going to be anything more than a boom bust wide receiver 3 this year. It would lower the overall value of Hollywood Brown in that offense. So anybody out there that's talking about like a potential Hollywood Brown breakout, probably not going to happen after this. Tyler Guyton goes to the Cowboys. So, maybe Rico Dowdle's season still online. I'm still expecting that Rico Dowdle's going to get some backfield competition. Maybe not. But again, all those guys, Dak, CD, Ferguson, I like that. Moving on. So Ricky Pearsall goes 31 to the 49ers. And the scuttlebutt today was that Brandon Ayuk is looking more and more like he's going to get traded. So Ricky Pearsall's overall value this year is going to be tied to whether or not he's the number 2 in the offense with Debo, or he's the number 3 in the offense with the big asterisk that Debo is getting a little bit longer in the tooth. So he will eventually be the number 2 attached to Brock Purdy. Got to like that. Not the best landing spot. I was hoping that he might be a sneaky sleeper. I don't see how that's going to happen without injury. The big one, and this is all this, Xavier Leggett, and he's an athletic freak. He's like 6'2", 220, sub 440. He goes to the Panthers at 32. So this is going to hurt the Deontay Johnson shares. The possibility that I think that Deontay Johnson could be that guy who moves teams, becomes the number 1 like Stephon Diggs did a couple of years ago. That's probably not going to happen now. But the Xavier Leggett, I mean, he's got to get pushed all the way up into the wide receiver 30 type area with the range of outcomes to finish as a league winner. That's where I would have him. Again, I'm not quite as concerned with talent as much as the opportunity. And he steps into an offense that needs a number 1, and he's got the athletic measurables to do that. So as long as he's his ADP is going in a position to have about 1,000 to 1,100 yards receiving to go along with like the 6 to 8 touchdowns, he's going to be worth the flyer on to potentially have that 12 to 1,300 yard breakout season with 10 touchdowns attached to the offense. So I like all this. Moving on for tomorrow, I will be breaking down the second and third rounds where we're going to get hopefully our running backs to start coming off the board tomorrow. And then there are a few interesting wide receivers left. Adonai Mitchell, Ladd McConkey, Keon Coleman. I do like them. Roman Wilson. I'm waiting on Javon Baker to go off the board. Those are the guys that I'd be looking at. I don't think we're going to have any more quarterbacks. And I don't know if we're going to have any more tight end relevant guys, but we will be breaking down some of these guys, trying to even break down potentially the value of guys in Dynasty, the deeper guys that go in the draft. So hopefully you guys will show up tomorrow when the draft is over.